Hi guys, Dr. Mel here. We're busy finalizing the chapter on projectile motion. We did the hot air balloons and we're now going to see what bouncing objects do and how we draw graphs and how we draw conclusions when we've got objects, it's mostly balls being bounced off the floor. So let's have a look. If I've got a projectile, a ball being projected from this building, or I'm standing on this building and I'm projecting a ball, I can either throw it into the air and then it can go down, or it can be thrown directly downwards. So you have firstly those two points of notice that you've got to take. Is it going directly down or is it first going up and down? This lesson will specify what happens if this ball reaches the ground, goes up again, bounces, and it can even go down again, bounce, come up again, and that kind of motion. So you'll always be able to track what happens if you see how we do draw the graphs of this so that you can see is it actually bouncing. Now the first thing we've got to take notice of is the forces that's exerted on bouncing objects. Now we've got two different objects that you've got to take notice of. If it's a hard ball, now it can be something like this. I've got a golf ball here and it's very hard. If you ever touch this, you'll see you can't press this or actually do anything with it. Obviously, it does change a little bit of shape when somebody hits it with a golf club, but this is a hard ball, so it'll bounce very nice from the ground. The other kind of surfaces is a ball like this, which I can actually squeeze, and you can see the texture of these two objects is quite different. So we have to know, is it a hard ball bouncing or is it a soft ball bouncing? Why is it important? Because the velocity that it goes down with will be exactly the same for the two of them. But the velocity that it comes up with after the bounce will differ. Now let's just think about it. The hard ball will touch the ground and almost immediately leave the ground again. And the velocity that it's going in with will be very similar, not the same, if it's in inelastic collision, but mostly similar to the one that it actually has when it leaves the ground. When it's a soft ball, remember this ball deformed when it touched the ground. It's usually on the ground a little bit longer and then it'll go up. So remember here, something is going to change. It will be definitely the time and it will be this velocity. So we have to know that there's different velocities and, as I said, time. The forces on these balls will actually just be the ground, but it will be different because the touching of this one will be longer and the time for this one will be shorter. Now remember, you did an equation when you did momentum where you said there's an impulse, which is the force and the time. That will change the momentum. And we calculated the change in momentum with the final velocity minus the initial velocity. And you can often find questions with momentum in bouncing object, because remember when we did momentum, it was collisions. So in this case, when I've got a bigger time or a greater time span, it will impact on the impulse, or a shorter time span. So please remind yourself and go back to the lesson on collisions in momentum if you have forgotten this. Right, let's see how graphs will differ. If we've got a harder ball, we will usually have the maximum force and the time, and you'll often get a graph looking something like this. This will mean that's when it hit the ground. Why is this important? Have a look when it's a softer ball. You'll actually find something like that. Now, what does that mean? That means if you've got your x-axis and that's time, can you see that time there is being postponed actually before it goes up. So it's a hard ball, it immediately moves up or down. A softer ball will waste a little bit of time whilst it's on the ground because it deforms and the force then pushes it up. Let's have a look at the question. Position time graph. So I've got my position here, time graph, this is it, and that would be the contact time. And can you see there's a little bit of contact time being wasted there, and that's the way that you're going to see it. Can you also see that this is not exactly there, which means it fell down and it didn't go up to that same position again, so it's lower than that. Can you see that there? And this one is even lower, so it bounced again, it came down and it bounced again, and it's lower than it was. There's a lot of information that a graph can give you in terms of a bouncing ball. The velocity. We know it starts here at 0. Let's say we drop a ball there. It accelerates to a final velocity. Can you see that point there? It then changes direction. And can you see, we now start the equation at the bottom. Remember, your graph starts at the bottom because the initial velocity for the upward will be not the same as the final for the downward. If it's the same, it's an elastic collision, and we know no energy is wasted, but we'll see when we get values. Can you see there's another bounce, changing direction? What happens at that point there? Let me take another color so that we can exactly see what's happening there and there. So what is the velocity there? It's 0. So you know this point here is when it turned around in the air, going down again. And it went up and turned around again. So you can see clearly how this ball's velocity is actually changing, going, accelerating down, changing direction, going up, turning around, accelerating downwards, changing direction, accelerating down, going to 0, up, it's changing direction, and then to the ground. So have a look at graphs, practice these. It's quite interesting, the questions that they ask. I've got a velocity graph at a value there of 10. I've got a velocity there of 5. Can you see, after the first bounce, it actually went from 10 to -8. So when this ball hit the ground, it went in with 10 and it went out with 8. If you now calculate the kinetic energy, can you see you'll get different values, which means there's a loss in energy, which means it's an inelastic collision. It went up from -8 to, let's say, between 10 and 5. Let's say it's 7.5. Then it went from this value to 5. So you've got a loss there of energy and a loss in the velocity of this bouncing ball. Another example, which direction of the movement represents the positive? So you have to see if this ball is going from 0 downward to that one. Can you see you are actually saying it is going in a positive direction? Then it's going up again, it's turning around, and it's going up, 0, and it's going down again. So what you have here is that the positive side will be this acceleration to the bottom. That would be up and that would be down. The question, let's have a look at the question. Which direction of the movement is the positive? So what they're asking me, what is represented by the positive part of this graph? And the answer is the downward part is actually the positive side. So have a look at that because it's accelerating to become a final velocity. How many times did this specific graph represent the ball bouncing. Now, where did it bounce? It bounced there and it started again there. It bounced there and it started again there and it bounced there. So the answer will be 3 times. Let's see what they ask me about the gradient. What does the gradient of this velocity time graph means? Now, we did that when we did kinematics. We said the delta y over the delta x, that's your formula for gradient, represents the difference in velocity over the difference in time. And that we know is acceleration. The acceleration is the gradient of this graph. Now, interesting. Can you see this gradient is exactly the same as that one? Is exactly the same as that one, exactly the same as that one, because it is 9.8 meter per second for all these gradients. It's a constant value, which gives me a constant gradient. Are the collisions, question 4, between the ball and the ground elastic or inelastic? Now remember, we defined elastic and inelastic in momentum and in the energy chapter. So elastic would mean the kinetic energy that's going in will be equal to the kinetic energy going out. And we see here it's got a difference in velocities. So it's losing the energy, and you can see it because there's a change in the velocity. So the answer would be it is inelastic. Determine the impulse on the ball. If the ball has a mass of that and the contact of the ball has a duration of 0.08. So I've got to calculate the impulse. I know the delta P is actually mVF minus VI. I'm going to take the mass. I know that final velocity here is minus 8 minus the starting velocity, which is 10, and you'll now get an answer of minus 1.8. And remember, the unit of impulse is Newton times second, and we can say it's upward. So that would be the calculation to calculate the impulse. The final question, suggest why the ball stopped. Now, if you have a look, you'll see that's the last point on your graph, and that's exactly at a velocity of 0. And my gut feeling would be somebody caught the ball, it stopped there, it's really at no velocity, so it really stopped at that point with a velocity of 0. So I would say somebody caught the ball. A next question. A ball is released from rest. Do you see here? It's from rest. From a certain height above the floor and bounces off the floor a number of times. The position time graph, which they're giving me here, represents the motion of a bouncing ball from the instant that it is released from rest. The question they're asking me is, which point represents the coordinates of the maximum height? So where is the maximum height on this graph? Is it A, is it B, is it C, or is it D? Now let's go through the graph. Can you see the position is changing to that point? It's turning around, coming back. There was the velocity of 0. It's bouncing there. It's going up, turning around again, and bouncing there. The question was, what is the maximum height after the second bounce? Now you can see that was the first bounce. That was the second bounce. So the maximum height would be D. So after that, the maximum height is actually the height of D. A last question with a graph. A ball is thrown vertically downward. Now, downward represents the first part of this graph. From a building, so somebody is standing on top of a building and they're throwing this ball downward. Can you see the graph? It is starting here with 10 meter per second. please make sure that you read the graph. It bounces a few times, and you can see here, it's bouncing. The velocity time graph describes this motion, and it is thrown up to a certain time t. That's point t there. We take downwards as the positive, as we've done with all the calculations, and the ground is the 0. So this is the ground. The graph is not drawn to scale, and we are ignoring air friction. So it is quite clear that the ball accelerated from 10 to 29.6. It then turned around, it went down here, but can you see what's happening here? There's a 2 seconds and a 2.2. So it actually spent 0.2 seconds whilst it bounced on the ground. Then it came up again, and again there you can see it went up. It turned around at 4.955. It went up to 27. It then reached the ground at 27, spent time on the ground again, and then went up to the final velocity. So, finer values, you must see there 2.2 seconds, 7, 7, 1, and 8. Can you see it's actually a soft ball because it's spending time on the ground? Let's see which questions they are asking me. Write down the speed which the ball is thrown downwards. So have a look, where does your graph start? It starts at 10. So my velocity graph says to me the speed when it started was 10 meters per second. I just read it off my graph. All parts of the graph have the same gradient. We've done that in the previous question. So this gradient there is exactly the same as the gradient of that one and of that one. And we said delta V over delta T is the acceleration. So the first thing is the gradient represents the acceleration. And why is it the same? Because the acceleration in all cases will be 9.8 meters per second, which is due to gravity. 3. Calculate the height from which the ball is thrown. Now, there's 2 ways that you can calculate the height. This is the height because this is when it hit the ground at the bottom from 10 to that point there. So I can do a first calculation by saying delta y equals VI delta t plus half a delta t squared. What do I have? I want to calculate the height. I've got the initial velocity. I know it took 2 seconds. You can see there. Plus a half, 9.8, and again 2 seconds square. I then calculated that accurately to get a value of 39.6 meters. You could have done it with another equation. You could have said, if I've got the area under this graph, I can then also calculate the height of the building. The area would be length times breadth plus the triangle. Do we have that? So I've got 10 times 2. Can you see there? 10 times 2 is that part plus a half. Make sure that you deduct that 10 from the 29.6. That would be 19.6 times the height, which is, do I have it right? It is 2. And if you calculate that, 20 plus that value, you will get exactly 39.6. I think that value is 19.6. So, do you see, either using the area calculation or your equations of kinematic equations motion, you'll get exactly the same answer. So my answer to the height was the building is 39.6 meters. They then asked me to calculate the time t, and you can see here I now am going to use that portion of my graph. So what I have here is I've got the final velocity, which is 0. Do you see there? I've got the starting velocity, which is minus 25, and I've got the acceleration. And if I now calculate t, I find it to be 2.55. Now be careful, you had there 8. So I've got the 8 there, and I calculated t now to be 2.55. So in actual fact, your value of t will be 10.55 seconds, because the difference between those two was 2.55. So you've got to add it to the 8. Final questions. Write down the time the ball is in contact with the ground at the first bounce. Now, if you have a look, you'll see it is on the ground from 2 to 2.2 seconds. Your answer will be 2.22 minus the 2, sorry. That will give me an answer of 0.22 seconds. That's the time spent on the ground. Write down the time which the ball reaches its maximum height after the first bounce. Now let's first quickly have a look. That's the first bounce. Then it goes, from there it goes up again. And they now ask me, what is that height there? And you can then calculate that height. So it's important for you to use then the time that it took. And you can see I now made that time. It was, let me quickly just take that writing away, 4.955 seconds. That's the time it took to reach the maximum height. Finally, write down the value of x. Now you can calculate x and you get a value there for 27 meter per second. So you can go again and calculate it with that one, but it's quite easy to see that that's 27. Is the collision of the ball elastic or inelastic? I think we've done a few of these now. You can see here, it went in with 29.6, it went out with 27. It's not the same velocity. So the kinetic energy will be different. It went in here with 27, it went there 27. So that went much better. And can you see here, it went in with 25 and it stopped. So it has an inelastic collision because there's a loss of kinetic energy. Right, guys, can we now get back to projectiles? We've done projectiles just going down and up. We've done hot air balloons, and we now finalized it with objects bouncing. So make sure that you know all 3 of these different projectile motions. You have to be able to draw graphs or interpret graphs, identify quantities, and calculate for the bouncing of objects. And remember, this is linked to momentum as well as to energy chapters. So have a look at those and do lots of exercise so that you're able to complete these questions. Bye-bye.